All right, welcome back. This is our second match. We've got Patrick McGuckin on the right,
15-year-old from Fraser Coast in Queensland, representing his dad's store.
Yeah. And who we got on the left there?
We have Jack Bierman from South Australia on the blue-white-red control deck. Patrick's already started out with a fanatical firebrand, the hasty little pirate monkey thing, getting on in there, and now this is already a dicey spot for the blue-white-red player. They only have, having a look at Jack's deck over here, he's got a few sweepers, but not heaps and heaps. He has Settle the Wreckage and some things.
He's swinging in for some points already. Oh, and there here comes the Chain Whirler as well.
Yeah. So just we'll update the life totals very shortly.
Oh, that's a Jack playing. Oh, he's
and he had the Deafening Clarion. Yeah, that's a 4 of in the blue-white-red list. So. Jack already taken a bit of damage.
But he's just got more low-powered creatures that you can just... That's another Gitu Lava Runner, is it? No, it's not.
It's a Viashino Pyromancer.
Yeah, Pyromancer. It's a 2-mana 2/1. When it enters battlefield, it deals 2 damage to target player or planeswalker. So Jack probably wore that in the face. And there's another
Deafening Clarion. Not the value that he wants to generate from that, but blowing up the 2/1.
Because he misses out on the life gain.
Yeah.
Or the life link.
He's already Jack is already kind of in the driver's seat now, as he needs to expend resources. Patrick's really just got to get on the board.
So what we're looking at here is Patrick is playing a mono red, which we saw Jack playing. No, we saw Ryan playing mono red in the last match, but obviously getting on the front foot here.
Yep, and Jack has just done a pretty spicy...
This game is going to be over in like 38 seconds, but unless
playing very
Jack's going to get some parity.
So Jack just gained 6 life off 2 copies of Revitalize. So putting himself back up to 16, and he copied it with Expansion.
He's got another Deafening Clarion in his hand. He's just... And a Lava Coil. Oh. He just blows up the Viashino Pyromancer. Here comes a Runaway Steamkin, and he shocked Teferi.
And Teferi's out of there.
Yeah. Some nice unstable lands there. Just pulling up a feature card here. What are we going to be looking at?
Expansion Explosion, which is how the blue-white-red deck is going to gain control of the game the later the game goes.
They just lava coiled the Viashino Pyromancer.
So now the roles in this matchup are the blue-white-red deck is really just trying to stabilize behind a Teferi and then just win with overwhelming card advantage.
Yeah.
Dealing another point to Jack there. Revitalize, casting another one there. Just drawing him a bunch of cards and gaining enough life that he can get back into it. Jack playing the control deck very fast. He had a draw in round 1, playing against Red-White Angels, piloted by David Gittin from Chicago.
Yeah.
Really tough for him to grind out against that deck. So he couldn't actually pull off the win, even though he had the game under control, and it ended up being a draw. So you can actually see him playing a lot faster in this round.
Because he doesn't really get caught.
Yeah.
So you got Expansion Explosion down there. Is there key points you want to...
Yeah, so Expansion Explosion, so how Jack is going to use this is he'll use the expansion side to copy a kill spell or a Revitalize, which gains him a bunch of life. And then later in the game, he's going to use Explosion, which is X blue, red, X damage to any target player draws X cards. So it's like the Sphinx's Revelation of old. It's just going to be a way to dump all of this mana you can see on the left side of the board. And as soon as he draws Expansion Explosion, the game is just over because Patrick will not be able to catch up from that. Already Patrick is very far behind, drawing a lot of lands here, and not many removal spells, or, well, he's drawn some removal spells, but not many creatures at all. So now Jack has the choice of just countering or killing every single thing that Patrick wants to do.
So that's a Sinister Stabber Sabotage there? What's that guy?
It's just counter target spell, Surveil 1. So it's exactly what this control deck wants to do. Control what's happening on the board.
He still is hunting for land. Is that his play, is to go for the explosion?
Yeah, you're just going to explosion for like 9 and win the game immediately.
Yeah.
That's what Patrick's living in fear of a bit here.
Do you think this is a pretty stock deck that Jack's playing? So Patrick will be expecting.
Jack's actually made a bunch of concessions to his list here to deal with decks like Mono Red. Yeah. You can see he's got the 4 Expansion Explosion along with the 2 Revitalize. Revitalize is a pure life gain spell. Gain 3 life, gain 3 life and draw a card. But if you copy it with Expansion Explosion, it's draw 6, gain 6, draw 2 cards. And you can see that Jack's just every single card that he's playing here is just going to just be killing a threat or generating him more advantage. So he's played Search for Azcanta there, which is going to help him filter through the top cards of his deck. And then he's going to transform it this turn when he decides whether to keep this card or not, flip it over, and then you can start paying 3 mana to dig even further for that Expansion Explosion. More land. Here we go. Yeah.
So much land.
But this is what the control deck wants, because now you can tap Search for Azcanta and you can play a spell off it. So
is he
he's like, upset about drawing Disdainful Stroke? Not very good against the mono red deck. It counters a spell with converted mana cost 4 or more.
The amount of cards he's gone through, and he's hunting for the Expansion Explosion. He hasn't seen it yet. I've seen one early.
I think Jack's on about 13 now. Just really digging for more card draw, more removal, and he's getting the Chemist's Insight, which is going to draw him 2 cards. Yeah.
You surveil after the draw?
You don't surveil on that one. That one's just got Jump Start. Yeah.
Oh, Jump Start.
So you can cast it from your graveyard again.
That's why is it? I'm just thinking everything's Dimir these days.
Yeah, Dimir, you're Dimir obsessed.
I am. In loving Dimir draft.
So the Lava Coil getting rid of the Pyromancer there. Patrick cannot possibly win this game. It is now...
everything he plays is just getting bounced.
Risk Factor is going to help him a little if it doesn't get countered immediately. Deals 4 damage... you choose as the person having Risk Factor cast against you. Do you want 4 damage dealt to your face, or do you want your opponent to draw 3 cards? He's going to let him draw 3 cards. You don't see that very often. But I think Jack knows that he's very much in the driver's seat with searching stuff with Search for Azcanta.
Yeah.
He's going to cast the 2nd copy of Risk Factor here. In response to the Chemist's Insight, so before Jack draws a counterspell for it. And what's this 5 mana? He's tapping his 6 mana. What does he have?
Is he
12, 13, 14, 15
pretending
lands.
like he's got
Something insane? Let's see what he's got here. So the 2nd copy of Risk Factor is on the stack. Nick Coe has just chimed in on the stream chat. He says, "New decks, please." I don't know what you mean.
No.
Blue, white, red, very
We're
exciting.
Gonna be with
Mono red, very exciting.
We're going to be with these decks for at least
for
one more game.
And now the 3rd copy of Risk Factor that Patrick has cast this turn. So when I said he was counting his Syncopate mana, so this is X and a blue counter target spell. If you counter it, exile it. Really great to pop on the 3rd copy of Risk Factor because it means he can't jumpstart it from his graveyard.
Yeah.
Jack actually let Patrick draw 6 cards that turn off Risk Factors because he knows that his life total is a precious resource, especially when playing against Mono Red. He's just drawn a bunch of cards, but he's really hoping one Expansion Explosion is going to just make the game just be sealed up immediately.
Running out of room for the lands here.
Yeah. It gets a messy board, and here's the Teferi. Another harbinger of doom for Patrick here. He has to deal with the Teferi, which is going to draw Jack a bunch of cards, and he has to deal him another 13 damage. I think it's going to be a bit dicey. He's untapping a couple lands, shocking the Teferi just to stop him from getting up to his ultimate there. A lot of lands in hand for Mr. McGuckin. Young Pat McGuckin from Queensland.
What has he got here? Chain Whirler?
Chainwheel is going to ping down the Teferi, but Jack has so many cards now. It's just got a embarrassment of riches.
This is that thing, you know, where all the spells that if you cast more spells, or for every time you cast an instant or sorcery this turn, those sort of spells, he's just got so much mana. He can do this.
Yeah, he can just, So if he's drawing 2-3 cards between his draw step for the turn, Teferi, and Search for Escanter, he has so much mana now that he can just do whatever he wants with it.
Yeah.
So we did, Teferi did just eat the Wizard's Lightning, so Patrick's doing as much as he can to get around counter spells and removal spells and that sort of thing, and make sure he can keep in the game by getting rid of Teferi. But the longer the game goes, Jack's just going to draw a bunch of cards. I've seen him.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
There we go. There's the expansion explosion. So this game will be sealed up very soon. JC Man 20 just on the stream chat saying he's so happy to see Store Prodigy Pat at the championship. Way to go,
Way
Pat.
to go, Pat.
Way to go, Pat.
Yeah.
Pat might lose this one, sorry.
Yeah.
He's about to get explosioned for 20 or something.
JC Man 20s might support might just push him over the line in the next match.
In the next game. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Patrick did have that really
4,
aggressive
6,
start, but
8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16 lands, 17 lands.
Oh yeah, here we go. He knows that the expansion explosion's coming.
He's
It's
seen
gonna
it.
blow him out of the water.
He's just giving him the eyes now, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, what are we doing?
Is he just going to play on for 20 land and try to do it all in one hit?
I mean, I guess you can do that. Achievement unlocked if you do it. Kill someone with one spell. So yeah, Patrick's taking a few little chunks of damage out of Jack, but he's not too worried because he's going to seal the deal very soon.
Here it is.
Here we go. That is a lot of cards and a lot
We're
of damage.
back in 20 minutes after Jack's finished counting his lands.
Just doming him right in the face,
4.
taking him down to 6.
Is
And
it-
drawing that many cards. Goodness
Is that
me.
14?
I think he'd taken 1 point of damage from something earlier as well.
Oh, right.
The other expansion explosion, which he drew off the other expansion explosion. So
Yeah.
Jack takes out game 1 there.
It was an expansion explosion hotbed in the remainder of his deck because he'd seen one.
He'd seen one
He's got
that whole
4
game.
of his deck.
So if you remember Sphinx's Revelation of old,
Oh, yes.
which is X white blue blue, instant gain X life, draw X cards. The most crushing thing about that card was it probably drew them into another one. So
Yeah.
you can see with Expansion Explosion, Jack maneuvered the early half of it, Expansion. So this is probably the most important card in this particular game, apart from that Deafening Clarion on turn 3.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
pretty rough. Because it can copy any instant or sorcery with CMC 4 or less, you can copy your opponent's things. If they try and shock one of your creatures, you can just copy it and shock one of their creatures as well. And also...
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
And then also you can copy that Revitalize, which he's got main deck, almost as a concession to how powerful the mono red deck is going to be. And then late game it just kind of just wins you the game in 2 hits. You don't have to worry about faffing around with a Teferi or anything.
So Patrick's got to find some way of dealing with what he's seen in Jack's hand. He's got his sideboard here that we're looking at. Has he got anything that we can see him using to benefit here?
He's got one mountain in the board.
He has got one mountain in the
one
sideboard.
mountain is what you bring in when you're going up to the big package. So we can see that his main deck is very aggressive. It's all 1-drops, 2-drops, maybe a 3-drop.
But he knows that, like, he got Deafening Clarion 2 or 3 times in a row there, didn't he?
Yeah, he
And it just
did.
wiped him.
And so what you need is to bring in threats which are more varied and difficult for your opponent to deal with. So in the board we can see one more risk factor to deal him some damage, maybe draw him some cards.
The Rekindling Phoenix?
The Rekindling Phoenix would probably come in as well, just because Deafening Clarion only deals with one half of it.
Yeah.
The blue-white deck, unless it is using Settle the Wreckage, doesn't actually have heaps and heaps of exile spells. But that's why Jack's on the blue-white-red plan. The Lava Coil is the thing that is going to exile the Rekindling Phoenix.
On the Twitch stream, people are acknowledging that it was a tough matchup for Pat.
And a lot of land.
A lot of land, yeah.
Best of luck for the next one. So going into this game, he's seen the Lava Coils. Does he bring in the Phoenixes just as awkward threats? But he's actually boarding in... he's boarded out a few of the Gitu Lava runners there.
Results for round 1. We can tell you the results for round 1 just responding to Twitch stream questions.
King Cantor.
We had on screen, we had Ryan Kubit versus Zikai Zhai, and Zikai took out the win. We had David Gutin from Chicago. He drew with Jack Bierman, who we're watching right now.
On the left.
Patrick McGuckin, he won versus Matthew
Giudis.
And Jack Zeng, he won against Zachary Xiao in our Zachary Xiao, our WA.
WA representative.
Yeah.
So let's have a look a little bit at what Jack Bierman is bringing in. I did see him bring in one of the crackling drakes from the sideboard. That's blue, red, X4. X is its power is equal to the instants and sorceries in your...
Now, I've moaned about Enigma Drake like loads, despite Anthony Lee telling me I'm wasting my time moaning about it because it's just, you just remove it.
It was in the Duels meta. That's what you were worried about. Yeah.
I was very worried about in the Duels meta. But his crackling Drake sharing similar sort of a vibe, right?
Yeah, a similar vibe. It draws you a card when it enters, so it's still generating value as you play it. And then its power being equal to instants and sorcerers in exile and in your graveyard means regardless of whether you're jump starting or dumping stuff from Surveil or whatever, it's just growing and growing and growing. I think Jack's going to board in some here because he needs cards that come down and deal with multiple of Patrick's creatures. You can't draw Deafening Clarion every single time, but if you set up behind a Crackling Drake, they can only do so much to spend removal spells on that and have burn spells for your creatures and have burn spells for your planeswalkers and for your face. And
with the amount of mana that Jack had out last time and he's casting spells, he's going to get benefit for it by having the Crackling Drake out, right?
Easily, we've seen Jack is mulliganing to 6. His hand had one too many expansion explosions in it.
Oh, did it really? Perfect.
Oh, dear.
Like, great. Now you come and help
that double-edged sword there.
Yeah. I would love to see them cut decks here, and because they're using the same sleeves,
just pick up the wrong deck?
Pick up the wrong half and add it to the other half.
We'll have to do a big judge call there.
All right, here we go.
Patrick will be on the play as the mono red deck. He's just lost.
Did Patrick mulligan, and he's...
I think Patrick is mulliganed as well, and they're both going to scry, and Jack is going to 5.
Oh, okay.
Seen a couple mulligans to 5 in the feature match era already.
That's right. We saw Ryan do that in game 1.
Not going to help you win against the Golgari deck, the mull to 5.
Yeah. Be good to see. Like before the tournament started, would you have thought that mono red would be a strong pick? That people would go for that?
I think so. It kind of, when it works incredibly quickly.
Yeah.
And like we said, if Jack had not played that Deafening Clarion on turn 3...
Patrick was on a tear there,
it was on a huge tear, So it could have just gotten out of control really, really quickly. So in Jack's hand...
He got one land?
It looks like one or maybe 2 lands. Maybe 2 lands.
He's got a white card in there, which is useless.
Patrick, with the mulligan, no 1 or 2 drops either. This is a little awkward for him. Jack's drawn the 3rd land there. Chain Whirl is going to come down and ping... not Patrick, it's going to ping Jack.
yeah. It's going to ping something.
It's going to ping
when you throw in a chain with spikes on it around,
it's going to hurt.
Indiscriminate pain.
If I got hit by a chain, it'd take off about a 20th of my life force as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh,
another
Patrick's
land.
got so much land. Patrick.
This is when you feeling like you just want to cut lands from you, and it might not necessarily be the right choice to make, right?
And Jack now with no white mana, still feeling like he's firmly in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Crackling Drake coming down, drawing him an extra card. So you can see the Crackling Drake immediately just blanking that Chain Whirler because you can't attack into it with first strike. If you do, you've got to use a removal spell. And he's going to play a Phoenix post-combat. Yeah. Good bluff attack, though. Make him sweat.
Yeah.
Another Drake.
Oh.
There we go, drawing cards. He just needs that white mana for the Teferi next turn. He plays the Plains very convincingly. Next turn, that Teferi's going to come down and probably bounce a Phoenix or something. And Pat just drew another land. Oh dear, it's going to be tough for him to.
Oh, he didn't, did he?
Yeah.
So these are 0-4.
They're 0-4s at the moment. Yeah, they both had very awkward things. Interesting from Jack just throwing the full chump block in there against the Phoenix. But he thinks that he's going to be casting a Settle the Wreckage sometime soon.
Or does he just need to hold? He just needs to maintain some life.
He just needs to maintain
until
some
he can
life.
stabilize a little bit. Oh,
Yeah.
that was one of our hit words. Stabilize.
Stabilize.
Oh, but he's got the white
has-
sauce.
yeah, he
now.
just drew the
oh, he's
other
got
white
a planes
sauce.
as well. Yeah.
Yep.
So he's looking good. He's
opting
good.
to not cast a Fairy, very much telegraphing that he's got to Settle the Wreckage in his hand. Settle the Wreckage exiles all attacking creatures that a player controls, and then they get a basic from their deck for each creature exiled.
Right.
Pat having to be very
Fanatical
careful.
Firebrand.
Very clever attack here, not
Alright.
attacking with the Phoenix to play around the Settle the Wreckage, because otherwise that Phoenix would just be exiled and out of there, and then it's useless when it's in exile. That's what I've heard. Jack very upset that his clever play was seen through. He's got the 6 to just explosion the Fanatical Firebrand. It looks
Fanatical
like.
Firebrand.
Yeah.
And in response, where
He's going to Lightning Strike, which does not actually counter the Explosion, because Explosion has 2 separate targets. Explosion deals X damage to any target, and target player draws X cards. If Patrick has to keep this play, he has just Lightning Strike his creature for no reason.
no reason. All right.
And that is
essentially he was hoping to give that expansion no target, right?
Yeah,
but
so
it's 2 separate targets.
So if it was X damage to a target, you draw X cards. Because there's only 1 target, if you Lightning Strike the 1/1, the whole spell's counted. But because this has 2 targets, it does as much as it can. And Jack's just drawn a bunch of cards, and Patrick's Lightning Striked his own creature for nothing.
Oh, rough.
Very sad. The Teferi's going to draw him a card, untap some lands so that he can keep up his Settle the Wreckage. Tough spot for Patrick here. He kind of needed that Lightning Strike to deal with the Teferi.
Yeah.
But it's now playing directly
swinging.
into the Settle the Wreckage. I mean, he's got to do it at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe Patrick just made that play so that he can get lands out of his deck so he stops drawing them.
It's always feel for players when that happens, because you just really want both decks to work as best they can.
Yeah.
We've talked about this on the podcast where you've had games where you just didn't, like maybe game 3, and you just don't get to do your thing.
Now, Patrick has just played the Experimental Frenzy.
Straight into a Chain Whirler.
Yeah. And now Patrick could actually swing this back just by virtue of pure cards. Like, if Jack doesn't have an answer for the Experimental Frenzy, Patrick's going to be playing 2-3 cards a turn at this point.
So what sort of enchantment is
I think
Teferi?
the blue-white deck doesn't have anything. So if Patrick was making sure that he could land the Experimental Frenzy on his turn, that was actually a really good play.
I think Teferi got rid of
it's put the
Experimental Frenzy.
non-land permanent
Yeah.
from the 2 cards from the bottom.
Oh, in response to that attack,
There
to
is
try and
a
save
expansion
Teferi.
explosion, blowing up a Chain Whirler, and he's going to draw 4 cards. 4 cards. It's over for poor Patrick, I think.
Yeah.
Jack has so many cards in hand. He's got an active Teferi. The Experimental Frenzy stuck a couple cards down in his deck.
Which puts Patrick in a tough spot overall.
So we've got
That's the case,
3
'cause
rounds of Swiss before we cut to the top 4.
That's correct. We did check this in the break.
Jack will be at the top of the standings with the other person who wins their match, because he has
a win
and a draw.
Yeah.
Patrick will have a win and a loss after this point, after winning his round 1. And we'll see who'll join
Patrick
him
to
from
come back.
Zikai and Jack Zhang.
Although Patrick's got a win and a loss after this, so
yeah,
he can still
make it. Yeah, he
still
just
make
has to win his round 3 for sure.
Yeah.
A little bit of going through the motions here. Patrick has drawn another gosh darn land.
That's rich. When you only want like 1, 2, 3 mana, and you've got
this is
a
rough.
10 land on 10 mana on deck, and no cards to cast. What's in Patrick's hand? You say? Oh, there's another Teferi coming down, so he sacks the other one, and
maybe
Picks him
just
up,
looking,
draws a card.
maybe just looking for ways to use the cards that he's drawn off Explosion, so he doesn't have to just discard them. He may as well just play a second copy of Teferi.
Yeah.
Untaps 4 lands because both of the Teferis trigger separately.
Okay, yeah.
And making sure he has 7 in his hand, all of which can deal with every single one of Patrick's cards that he plays from now on. This is dicey.
So
Discarding a Deafening Clarion, almost in a haha.
It is.
Didn't even need this.
I don't need that.
Yeah.
There's Experimental Frenzy again.
It's going to get countered, and looks like that will be the nail in the coffin for young Patrick McGuckin in round 2 of the Good Games Magic Championship. Get to watch a bit of Blue White Red spin its wheels and go through the motions until he expansion explosions him for a bajillion.
Yeah. He's counting up now. He's like, what have I got? It's just
getting counted and going to surveil, make sure he draws into a bit more gas with Sinister Sabotage.
Seems so weird that he could surveil into a land at this time. Just go, yep, that's what I'm after.
Yeah. Because really, you just want to make sure that expansion explosion is just going to kill him and draw you into another one.
Yeah.
It's the main way that this deck is going to win now. You can Teferi.
Lyra.
He's brought in the Lyra from the board just to make sure that he stabilizes, gains some life. Now, Patrick scooped it up. He drew another land for the turn. So unfortunate for 15-year-old Patrick McGuckin from Queensland. He's come over here. He's 1-1 so far. Jack with the reasonably quick wins from Blue White Red control.
Yeah.
Let's maybe get a little bit of insight into what their sideboard is. So we brought in Crackling Drakes and probably the 2 Lyras.
The Lyra there, yeah.
Just because if Patrick spends all his removal spells early on pinging Planeswalkers or dealing it to his face or something, or dealing with Crackling Drakes, if you land a Lyra, you just won that game against Mono Red. First strike life.
And you got evasion. So